Hey, it's your boy Glock and Loader here. Today we're going to be installing these XS Big Dot 24/7 sights on my Glock 23 pistol. And what you get with the kit is the rear sight, the front sight, both with the tritium inserts. Got some thread lock here. This black thing here is a non-marring punch tool. The silver piece here, if you can see that, is a wrench to tighten the front sight, and then you've got like this very tiny Allen key to temporarily tighten the rear sight before you put the thread lock in. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is do a safety check. So let me go ahead and drop the magazine, point in a safe direction. Pistol's unlocked. Let's go ahead and press the trigger. Get the slide off here. And let's take it apart. So we're going to be working on the slide, and if you can see, the front sight here is actually mounted by a screw or a bolt, and in the most instructions that I've read, it says to go ahead and just pull it out with the pliers, and I don't think that's going to work. So I'm first going to try and loosen this nut before I pull this top one off. Real quick, what other tools you're going to need is some kind of a hammer. It doesn't have to be this heavy duty. This is the only thing I could find. And simple pliers will work, but I could not find mine, so I've got this wrench here. And some Q-tips to wipe off the excess thread, and some kind of a roll of tape, and I'll explain why this is needed in just a second. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and stick this side into the top of the slide here and start twisting so that we can undo the front sight. And it should just screw right off. That's already loose. And you're welcome to, so it's a two-part piece, so the front sight and the screw that goes in it. And more than likely, these are not really worth keeping. They're less than $10 to replace front and back if you want the Glock sight, or excuse me, the Glock factory sights back on. So I'll just go ahead and set these aside. So now that the front sight is off, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the back sight, and what you want to do is kind of hang this up here on something, you know, tape or something similar, and you're going to use this marring tool to kind of hammer it off. Let me see if I can point it in your direction here, and very gently just try to get that piece to come out. And the angle of the rear sight makes it a little bit tricky, but we should be okay. It's already starting to come loose here. Alright, so now that the back sight is off, what you're going to get is kind of a groove or channel here. You've got this hole here, and the next thing you want to do, I failed to mention this earlier, is you're going to need to degrease anywhere that the new sights are going to contact the slide and vice versa. And the simple way to do that is just to use some rubbing alcohol on the Q-tip. Just go ahead and dip that on and apply that to wherever the two surfaces are going to meet. And the reason why you want to do that is to ensure a strong hold between the sight and the body of the slide. Any oil or lubricant that's left over in terms of residue may impact the grip that the Loctite will provide for the new sight. So probably not something we want to compromise. So let's just go ahead and do that. Let's just clean that up real good. Let me dip it in real quick again. And then go ahead and apply that to the new sight. So this is the new rear sight with the tritium vial on the back. So just go ahead and put it down here on the surface like that. And you want to do the same thing to the new front sight, and that will apply to both the sight itself as well as the little hex nut that's going to be glued in on the other side. and we'll let that dry for a little bit, and we'll come back and get started in the application. So once the alcohol is dried and degreased, you've confirmed that. What you want to do is just make sure you can dry fit the pieces real quick. So the front side will go on like that. You just want to make sure it fits in the channel nice and neat. There's a little bit of wiggle room, but you can fix that once you've put the thread lock and the bolt underneath. The rear sight is going to go with the tritium vial obviously facing you. In many cases, you'll be able to slide that right in. And if you can't, the last thing you want to do is force it in. The best thing to do is to file that down, the bottom down a little bit until it slides comfortably in. You don't want to have too much of a gap, but not be forced in either. So I'll come back to that in just a second. So once you've confirmed that the front sight fits correctly, the next thing you're going to do is apply some thread lock here. And it comes in a vial like this. Just twist the cap off here. And you want to clip the very, very tip of this kind of sort of at an angle so that you make as small as hole of a possible for the thread lock to get out. So what you're going to do is apply a little bit to the surface here. Just make sure we get that on nice, and that's okay if you get a little bit extra on. You'll have about maybe 5 or so minutes to wipe off any excess that you get on. Just take care not to get any of the thread lock onto the white the sight part of the front sight. Just get that on like that real good. Set that down. Let's go ahead and fit that in. And you want to just hold it down for a few minutes. And you can kind of straighten it out with your finger. There's a little bit of room just to get it to where you think you want it, and just hold that down real quick until it tightens up on its own. Shouldn't take more than just a couple seconds. And then while that's drying, what you can do is take the small hex screw and put that back in on the underside using this tool. And it's probably a good idea to get a little bit of thread lock on that as well. So let me just go ahead and set this down here. And what you just do is just apply a little bit like that. Oh, fell out, sorry about that. One thing I'll mention is the length of this screw is smaller than the stock one, so they're not interchangeable. So take care not to lose it, to say the least. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and stick this in from the bottom. And it only needs to be finger tight. There's no need to over tighten it. The thread lock will do its job. One thing you just want to make sure that's happening is that it's not protruding past the surface of the slide, right? You don't want it to interfere with the operation of the barrel. Alright, so we'll let that sit for a few minutes. See how that looks. So after about 5 minutes, once you're happy with the setting, you've tightened up the screw here in the bottom with Loctite, and you're happy with this front, you want to go ahead and just gently wipe off any excess thread lock here. Just take care not to get any of the excess that's rubbing off onto the white part of the sights. So just wipe away from it, and then you want to do the same thing on the underside, is to wipe off any excess thread lock that may be coming out of the underside of the bolt there. And that's it. And the next thing we're going to do is move on to the back sight. So go ahead and take a look at that. Get it as straight as you can. Doesn't have to be perfect, but close enough. Some people will argue that it's better to take these to the range and just confirm the sighting in before you tighten the back with Loctite. But I found, in my experience at least, that that's not really necessary. These are combat sights. You're not going to get quite the precision that you would at distances that you would with target sights. So for that reason, I think what you're really looking for is quick sight picture and target acquisition. I think these will work great for that purpose. All right, so similarly, we're going to take this back sight with the tritium vial facing towards us on the back, slide that in, and again, you're trying to get it as close as you can to where you want to position it, and then you're going to take this tool right here, and there's two holes at the top of the sights, and these are meant to temporarily brace this rear sight in place while the thread lock is drying, if you can see that. Wait for it to focus. There we go. All right, so I'm going to take a look and see where I'm happy with the sights, and we'll go ahead and tighten these up, see how they look. And again, these are also not intended to be tightened all that much. Finger tight is plenty, because the Loctite will do the trick. And that looks pretty good to me. Let me just take a look down the barrel here. Yep, and let me see if I can get you a view of what the sight picture is going to look like, something like that once it's done. Just got to dot the I essentially. All right, so let me go ahead and make sure I like the positioning of these, and the next thing we'll do is we'll put the thread lock on them. All right, so we're ready to go ahead and place the thread lock on the rear part of the sight here. So again, there's a tritium vial here in the back, so you want to take care to stay away from that. What you're going to do is apply the thread lock kind of away, starting kind of in the middle, just slightly away from the tritium vial, and then move outwards when you do the back side here. And we're going to let that dry. And then we're going to do the same thing when we apply it to the front. We're just going to go straight across though and let that kind of soak in. And then we're going to apply a little bit here to the sides and let that soak in as well. Get a nice tight hold. All right, and we're going to give that 5 minutes or so to dry off, and then we'll go ahead and wipe off the excess like we did with the front sight. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and wipe off the excess thread lock on the back as well. Over 5 minutes have gone by, so I think we can safely do that. And again, I'm going to wipe away from the center, and I'm going to use a clean tip every time I use the back, especially to make sure it does not get on the tritium vial on the back. All right, so we've done that. Let's go ahead and do this back side here and get what we can with this one Q-tip. I'm going to probably need another one or maybe a couple extras. So we've used that one up. Let's go ahead and grab a new one. Like that's completely dry. All right, let me go ahead and wipe that off. Okay. Looks like we're in good shape. And that's it. I think the only thing we got to do is wait a couple hours for this to dry before using it, or applying any lubricant. But that's it. And the sight picture will look like this. Let me see if I can just hold that towards the camera at the right angle. There it is. All right, let me go ahead and put the pistol back together, and we'll be in shape. And here's the sight picture again. All right, guys, thanks for watching.